Somewhere along the coast of Italy, concrete poured by Roman engineers has been sitting in seawater for nearly 2,000 years. Waves have battered it. Salt has soaked into it, and yet it hasn't crumbled the way modern concrete would in the same conditions. Modern seawalls and piers, built with all our engineering knowledge, often struggle in that same environment. So what did the Romans know that we forgot? Part of the answer is in what they built with. Roman builders mixed volcanic ash, lime, and seawater together, and that combination created chemistry unlike anything in a modern concrete plant. Volcanic ash is rich in reactive minerals, and when it meets lime and salt water, it doesn't just harden into an inert block, it keeps reacting, slowly, for centuries after it's poured. Here's the part that puzzled people for a long time. Inside some of this ancient concrete, there are small, lime-rich fragments scattered through the material. For a long time, the assumption was simple. Sloppy mixing. Roman workers, the thinking went, just didn't blend their materials evenly, and these fragments were leftover mistakes, evidence of ancient craftsmen not being careful enough. But mistakes don't usually make something last 2,000 years. Look closer, and those lime fragments start to look less like an error and more like a built-in repair kit. Concrete cracks. It always has. Water finds its way into those cracks, especially in a structure that spends its life in the ocean. In ordinary concrete, that water is bad news. It seeps in, erodes the structure from the inside, and the crack only grows. But when water reached one of those lime-rich fragments in Roman concrete, something different could happen. The lime could react right there in the crack and help seal it with newly formed minerals. In effect, the damage triggered its own patch. It's a little like the way a scab forms over a wound, except this scab is mineral, and it was mixed into the material from the very beginning, waiting for damage to activate it. The crack became the site of its own repair, closed from the inside by chemistry the Romans never had a name for and never needed to understand. And there's more happening in these marine structures over the long run. In seawater, the volcanic materials in the concrete could slowly form durable crystals over time, not overnight, and not as a single event, as a process that stretched across generations, quietly reinforcing the material long after the original builders were gone. The concrete wasn't just sitting there resisting the ocean. In certain conditions, exposure to that environment actively made it stronger. Think about what that means for how we usually think about strength. Modern engineering, for the most part, chases uniformity. We pour concrete in controlled batches, test it for consistency, and treat any pocket of impurity as a defect waiting to fail. A flaw, in that mindset, is always a liability. Roman concrete tells a stranger story. Its flaws, the very fragments that once looked like mistakes, may have been the reason it survived at all. Controlled imperfection, built right into the mixture, gave it a way to respond to damage instead of just enduring it. None of this came from a laboratory. The Romans weren't running chemical models or measuring tensile strength with instruments. They were working from generations of trial, observation, and whatever material sat near their coastlines and volcanoes. Every harbor wall, every bathhouse, every monument they poured became a slow experiment, one that kept running long after the people who designed it had died, its results only visible centuries later in structures that are still standing today. None of this means old technology beats new technology across the board. Modern concrete is more versatile, faster to produce, and adaptable to buildings the Romans never imagined, from skyscrapers to bridges spanning entire rivers. But Roman concrete offers a different lesson about what durability can look like. Sometimes strength doesn't come from resisting your environment as hard as possible. Sometimes it comes from cooperating with it, from building a material that can respond to the very conditions trying to destroy it. A crack, in this kind of concrete, was never automatically the beginning of the end. Sometimes it was simply the beginning, the start of a repair the builders couldn't see, written slowly into the stone itself, one wave at a time. Follow for more random things you may not know.